So I'm talking to Ed Daniels, Vice President of Commercial and New Business Development at Shell International. And we are pleased to have him here to give a talk to our community, our students, alumni, and corporate friends. And I'm going to ask him a few questions. How is Shell doing these days, and especially with the kind of changes that are happening in oil prices and also all sorts of new things in terms of mergers and globalization and things like that?
It's a hectic time in the energy industry, Anand. It's seen a dramatic change in oil price over the last year or so. So nobody would have predicted we'd have gone from $120 down to $40 and now back to somewhat around $60. So we're responding as best we can in the energy industry. I think we're still working extremely hard to be as efficient as we can in our operations. We're fortunate that with the upstream earnings down because of oil prices, we're seeing a good increase in our downstream earnings, so shareholders are reasonably happy about that. But probably the biggest news that you've seen in the newspapers and on the press in the last few months is our proposed merger or acquisition, I should say, with BG Group. So that's a very big undertaking for us, $70 billion price tag, and of course we have to wait now until probably the beginning of 2016 to see that we get government approvals and shareholder approvals to let that deal through. But we feel extremely excited. It's a great strategic fit. We think we've got the timing about right, and it's going to make Shell a bigger, stronger competitor out there to drive the energy industry. Okay,
that's very exciting. I mean, of course, one of the things that our students are very interested in is how does a company like Shell deal with sustainability? I mean, what about the effect on things like climate change, and especially because shale oil has become a big thing these days. Maybe you can respond to that.
Yeah, I mean, I think actually we are all fundamentally agreed that we need to get to a long-term sustainable energy future. The only debate is how do you do that?
Right.
What we do know is no matter the scale of the energy system is such that even by 2050, I think you're still going to see 60% or so of the energy needs of the world provided by hydrocarbons. So first of all, we've got to make those as efficient and as clean as possible. For example, in Shell, we're investing very heavily in carbon capture and storage to see if we can capture CO2 and store it under the ground to prevent it from going into the atmosphere. But also, we are investing in so-called alternate energies. So we've got an extremely large, probably the world's largest biofuels business, where we're in a joint venture in Brazil, sort of $6 billion venture that's producing sugarcane ethanol. We're investing very heavily in R&D to look at the next generation of biofuels. And we're grappling, along with the entire industry, of how will the energy system look 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now, and what will be our role? Will it be further forays into solar power, or is it going to be more wind power? Is it going to be an aggregator across the whole system? And frankly, I think we, along with many other players, are working out exactly how we best play in that system.
Yeah, so I mean, you spoke about biofuels and a whole variety of new things. I mean, so how does Shell invest in new technologies? I mean, do you do it mostly in-house? Do you partner with people? Do you outsource some of this development? So if you can tell us a little bit about how technology
a little bit of a hybrid strategy.
Right.
So we have a significant amount internally, in-house, where we do, we spend about $1 to $1.5 billion a year on R&D.
I see.
But in addition to that, we have extensive partnerships with universities around the world. Actually, in Imperial College here is probably the largest single relationship we've got anywhere in the world, but we have relationships with MIT, we have relationships with Tsinghua in China, and in Indian universities. So we collaborate with where we feel is the greatest expertise in a particular subject area.
Right.
And then we also do angel investing. We invest in companies that we think might be successful and will bring a technology advantage to us as a sort of an initial investor, and do that sort of venture capital type model to try and bring innovation into the company that way. So it's quite a mixed model of own research, university collaborations, and then also investment in companies.
So one of the things that our business school prides on is the fact that we have a focus on innovation and entrepreneurship. And I always tell the students that entrepreneurship does not mean that you always have to go and start a new company. There's a lot of scope for doing very entrepreneurial, very innovative things within, 100-year-old companies like Shell. So, I mean, what is your, do you feel that somebody with this kind of entrepreneurial bent has a future?
Absolutely. And I don't think that the future energy system, the sustainable energy system that I spoke about, I don't think that's purely about can we invent the next widget. I think the innovation is going to come very significantly from innovating new business models, new approaches. I mean, if you think about the electricity system of tomorrow, you're going to have multiple generators and multiple off-takers that will need to be optimized. You know, tomorrow, my dad is going to be an electricity generator. He's having solar panels put on his roof. An 86-year-old man is going to be part of the electricity system. How we choose to optimize that system is going to take a whole new set of thinking around business models. And I really look to business schools around the world to help us, and entrepreneurs to help us. How can we think differently than this sort of rather linear, sort of point-to-point, we dig it out of the ground and refine it and sell it, and then people buy it. I think it's going to be a multipolar world with lots of moving parts that innovation is going to be required, not only technologically, but through the business models as well.
All right, thank you very much. I mean, this was very, very informative, and we are very happy to have you here.
It's a real pleasure. Thanks very much for having me.